The world's strangest superheroes, the Doom Patrol, set out to thwart the daring plans of the Brain, the sinister leader of the Brotherhood of Evil, as their members send out a giant robot to New York to steal the Statue of Liberty. Greetings and welcome once again to another episode of the DC Comics Silver and Bronze Age podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Larry, and I'll be your intrepid guide as I feature back issues from DC Comics past, and together we will thrill to the adventures of your favorite DC Comics superheroes. Today we have featured on the podcast the Doom Patrol, number 86 from March of 1964. The reason for the odd numbering of the Doom Patrol's first official issue in its own standalone series was due to their previous 6 appearances in My Greatest Adventure, a sci-fi action anthology series published by DC Comics from 1955 until 1964. Following issue 85, the title of the series officially changed to the Doom Patrol. The series continued publication under the new title until its cancellation in 1968 with issue 121. The writer for this particular story was Arnold Drake. The artwork, both pencils as well as inks, was provided by Bruno Premiani. The editor for the comic book was Murray Boltinoff. Unfortunately, I don't have any information concerning the lettering for this story. The title of the story is called The Brotherhood of Evil. Also, we'll need to do a little roll call of sorts for the original 4 members of the Doom Patrol before we go any further. First off, we have the Chief, Dr. Niles Calder, wheelchair-bound leader of the group and scientific genius. He is the brains as well as the organizational authority behind the team, working behind the scenes to coordinate the Doom Patrol's adventures. Secondly, we have Rita Farr, known as Elastigirl, a former Hollywood actress who can expand or reduce as well as stretch any part of her body at will. Thirdly, we have Negative Man, Larry Trainor, a former test pilot who can release from his radioactive body wrapped in specially treated bandages a radio energy being who can fly at the speed of light. And lastly, we have Cliff Steele, also known as Robot Man, a former international thrill seeker. After a race car accident, underwent a radical surgery to encase his intact human brain into an incredibly durable and metal and electronic body. Now that we have all that informational rigmarole settled, let's get into the episode at hand. It all starts off with the members of the Doom Patrol celebrating the Chief's birthday with a surprise party. A little afterward, the Chief is notified by the authorities of a series of thefts of scientific equipment stolen by a giant robot piloted by an eccentric renegade scientist named Mr. Morden. The Doom Patrol encounter the robot and the mad scientist controlling it while it is trying to destroy a bridge in Midway City, but are stopped from capturing both the man and the machine when Morden grabs hold of both Cliff and Larry, forcing Rita to let Morden escape in exchange for her partner's lives. In Paris, France, Morden, with his robot, is recruited by the Brain, a disembodied brain kept alive by technology and the leader of a criminal organization called the Brotherhood of Evil. The Brain schemes to steal the Statue of Liberty, then hold the iconic metal monument for ransom. The disembodied intelligence enlists the aid of fellow members in recruiting the mad scientist. Madame Rouge, a woman who can stretch her body to fantastic lengths, as well as the ability to mold her face to impersonate anybody she chooses, and as well as a super intelligent gorilla named Monsieur Malat, a personal assistant to the Brain. The Brain sends Morden with his robot along with Monsieur Malat to New York to conduct the brazen theft of the Statue of Liberty, but are thwarted by the timely intervention of the Doom Patrol. All 3 members of the valiant team tangle with the criminals, rendering the gigantic robot inactive, but they allow Morden and Malat to escape when they are informed by the tricky duo of a bomb they had placed on the Statue of Liberty, set to go off in a matter of moments. Robot Man finds and throws himself on the bomb so that the explosion would not harm anything or anyone, but his tough metal body. He soon realizes the bomb was nothing but a dud, created as a distraction so that the 2 villains could flee the Doom Patrol. The Chief and the rest of the team conclude this will not be the end of the Brotherhood of Evil, far from it. The Doom Patrol would encounter the band of criminals in future adventures to come. Talk about an auspicious beginning to their standalone title. I think a bit of backstory behind the Doom Patrol is in order, as well as writer Arnold Drake's contribution to creating DC Comics' first team of offbeat, angst-ridden team of heroes. Editor Murray Boltinoff asked Arnold Drake to develop a feature to run in the anthology series My Greatest Adventure. Given the assignment on a Friday with a script due that Tuesday, and inspired to emulate Marvel's idea for superheroes with more character depth, Drake, along with fellow writer and friend Bob Haney, co-wrote and co-created the first story of the Doom Patrol, with artist Bruno Premiani designing the characters. Drake would go on to script all of the original Doom Patrol stories until the series was eventually cancelled. Drake, with artist Bob Brown, would introduce a key member of not only the Doom Patrol, but eventually the Teen Titans, Beast Boy, also known later on in the Titans as Changeling. As well as the Brotherhood of Evil, Arnold Drake also created other weird and eccentric adversaries for the Doom Patrol, such as General Immortus, an immortal criminal mastermind and recurrent foe of the team of outcasts. The Animal Vegetable Mineral Man, a Swedish scientist who fell into a vat simulating the organic soup of the primordial earth and gained power to change his body into any form of animal, vegetable, or mineral. Garguax, a malevolent alien leader of an invasion force attempting to invade the Earth multiple times. Mr. 103, a genius biochemist who suffered a mental collapse and developed the power to transform himself into any element on the atomic table. It's interesting to note that Drake, along with artist Carmen Infantino, was also responsible for co-creating one of the most popular supernatural heroes in the DC universe, and that is that red-garbed supernatural swashbuckler, Deadman. Artist Bruno Premiani is primarily known for his artistic run on the original Doom Patrol title, as well as doing sporadic artwork for the DC Titans during DC Silver Age. His superior draftsmanship, anatomy, and design work would remain in the minds of many readers during the 60s, making fans of the title and the characters themselves. It's pretty easy to see Premiani's art style was unique to the Doom Patrol, giving them human characteristics while involving the team of misfits in really outlandish adventures battling evil masterminds. Now, folks, as with the other previous episodes on the podcast, once again we'll be reviewing a rundown of notable events for March of 1964. So let's take a look at that, shall we? March the 1st. 85 people were killed when Paradise Airlines Flight 901 crashed into a mountain while on its way to Tahoe Valley, California, a ski resort town across the border from casinos in Nevada. Also, on March the 1st, the Liberian tanker Amphilyus broke in two and sank 230 to 270 nautical miles, 430 to 500 kilometers, southeast of Liverpool, Nova Scotia, Canada. The HMCS Athabascan of the Royal Canadian Navy rescued 34 of her 36 crew. March the 4th. Teamsters President Jimmy Hoffa was found guilty by a federal jury in Chattanooga, Tennessee, on 2 counts of jury tampering that had happened in 1962. The conviction was the first after 4 previous trials on other federal charges had ended in an acquittal. Hoffa was released after posting a new bail bond for $75,000 pending the appeal of the verdict and his 8-year prison sentence. His appeals would finally be exhausted 3 years later, and he would begin his sentence on March the 7th, 1967. Also on March 4th, Mark Lane, an attorney from New York City, asked for and was granted the opportunity to appear before the Warren Commission for the stated purpose of representing the interests of the late Lee Harvey Oswald, who had been charged with the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. March the 6th, the original version of the Soviet Union's MiG-25 supersonic jet fighter, referred to in the West as the Foxbat, was flown for the first time. These amazing aircraft, an author would note, were to sustain the biggest development program in history, leading to 49 versions, of which 33 flew and more than 20 entered service. March the 8th. Malcolm X, who had been suspended from the Nation of Islam, announced in New York City that he was forming a black nationalist party. "I will remain a Muslim," he told reporters, "but the main emphasis on the new movement will be black nationalism as a political concept and form of social action against the white oppressors." 3 days later, he incorporated his new organization as Muslim Mosque Incorporated and established a headquarters at the Hotel Teresa in the Harlem section of New York City at 125th Street and 7th Avenue. March the 9th, the first Ford Mustang rolled off the assembly line at the Ford Motor Company factory in Dearborn, Michigan. March 10th, voters in New Hampshire overwhelmingly approved the first legal state lottery in the United States since 1895, with 114,987 in favor and only 31,327 against. The format for the New Hampshire sweepstakes had already been arranged and printed in advance of the vote, with the first sweepstakes ticket ready to go on sale 2 days later. March the 14th. A jury in Dallas, Texas found Jack Ruby guilty of murdering Lee Harvey Oswald, the accused assassin of U.S. President John F. Kennedy, and recommended that his punishment be execution in the electric chair. Ruby's conviction would be reversed on appeal, and he would die of cancer in 1967 before a new trial could be held. March the 15th. Actors Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, who had co-starred in the 1963 film Cleopatra as lovers Mark Antony and Cleopatra respectively, were married in Montreal. The two would divorce in 1974 and then remarry in 1975 before they would be divorcing again in 1976. March the 17th. Joan Miriam Smith, a 27-year-old test pilot from Long Beach, California, departed from Oakland at 1:01 in the afternoon on a quest to become the first woman to fly solo around the world. March the 22nd. Venus de Milo, the famed 2,000-year-old Greek statue, was found to be slightly damaged as it arrived in Yokohama for transfer to the National Museum of Western Art in Tokyo on loan from the Louvre Museum in Paris. March the 27th. At 5:36 in the afternoon on Good Friday, the Great Alaskan Earthquake, recorded at between 8.6 and 9.2 on the Richter scale, struck the city of Anchorage, Alaska. The tremor, the most powerful earthquake in the United States and the second most powerful in recorded history, killed 131 people and sent waves that struck the coasts of Alaska, Washington, Oregon, California, and in Canada's British Columbia, as well as forcing the call for 300,000 residents of Hawaii to evacuate. March the 29th. Radio Caroline became the United Kingdom's first pirate radio station, with a signal heard at 1,520 kilohertz on the AM band. Founded by Ronan O'Rahilly, the station began broadcasting pop music from the ship MV Caroline, formerly the Danish passenger ferry Frederica. Since the ship was anchored 3 miles, 5 kilometers off the coast of Felixstowe, Suffolk, England, just outside British territorial waters, it was beyond British jurisdiction. Also on that same day, violent disturbances broke out between two youth gangs, the Mods and the Rockers, at the English seaside resort of Clacton-on-Sea on Easter Sunday. And finally, on March the 30th, TransCanada Airlines was renamed Air Canada. Canada's House of Commons had approved the legislation on March the 3rd in a bill sponsored by future Prime Minister Jean Chrétien from Quebec, who had championed the new name that would work equally well in the French and English languages. Now, on the entertainment front, My Fair Lady, Goldfinger, and Mary Poppins were top films for that year. But also these other films during that time, in 1964, would dominate the attention of the theater-going public. Among those are The Carpetbaggers, From Russia with Love, A Fistful of Dollars, Father Goose, A Shot in the Dark, A Hard Day's Night, and finally, The Night of the Iguana. On the music charts, March of 1964 was notable for the Beatles dominating the music charts with such songs as Love Me Do, A Hard Day's Night, and I Want to Hold Your Hand. But also other artists would capture the music-loving public's attention, such as the following: Roy Orbison with the hit single Oh Pretty Woman, The Animals with House of the Rising Sun, Hello Dolly by Louis Armstrong and the All-Stars, Chapel of Love by the Dixie Cups, You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling by the Righteous Brothers, I Get Around by the Beach Boys, Doo-Wah Diddy Diddy by Method Man, and finally Glad All Over by the Dave Clark 5. Well, I guess we have arrived at the end of this episode. Again, before I say goodbye to you fine folks, I would just like to thank everybody who listened to this podcast. And I invite you to stick around with me as I continue to produce more episodes and bring them out too on the YouTube channel. Now, if you would be so kind, please like and subscribe to this channel for more episodes, and if you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to post them in the comments section below. It would be greatly appreciated. So, until next time, as always, this is Larry, aka the Charming Curmudgeon. So long for now.